My hand was on the hospital pen, hovering over the consent form, when my phone buzzed with his text. Mom, I can't do $3,500 right now. Have you tried a payment plan? I read it twice, then a third time, just to make sure the numbers hadn't rearranged themselves into something kinder. Behind me, the nurse was saying something about pre-op fasting. I wasn't listening. I was staring at a photo my son had posted 4 hours earlier, a watch on his wrist that cost more than my mortgage. Mrs. Whitfield, the nurse said, is everything all right? I smiled the way I'd taught myself to smile for 30 years of customer complaints and family Thanksgivings. Everything's fine, I said. It wasn't. My name is Diane Whitfield. I'm 61 years old, and for 32 years I ran a small bakery in Millbrook called Sweet Fern, the kind of place where the regulars knew my name before I knew theirs. I built that business from a card table and $100 borrowed from my late husband Robert's Army pension. By the time I sold it 3 years ago, it was worth $410,000. I didn't sell it because I wanted to. I sold it because Robert had passed, and running a bakery alone at 58 felt like running up a hill made of flour and grief. I have 2 children. Marcus, 36, is a regional sales director who makes, by his own bragging at every holiday dinner, north of $220 a year. He drives a lease he can't really afford and married a woman named Kayla who refers to my house as quaint, in the tone people usually reserve for describing roadkill. Then there's my daughter, Reagan, 32. She's a single mother working 2 jobs, a vet tech by day, a rideshare driver most nights, raising my grandson Eli alone since her husband left. She has, by her own admission, $340 in savings on a good month. 3 weeks before the hospital scene you just heard, I was diagnosed with stage 2 ovarian cancer. The surgery was non-negotiable. My insurance would cover most of it, all but $3,500 in deductibles and pre-op testing the hospital required up front. I asked my son first. Family should come first, I thought. That was my mistake, not asking, but assuming what family meant to him. I called Marcus on a Tuesday evening. I could hear a restaurant behind him, glasses clinking, a woman laughing too loudly at something that probably wasn't funny. Mom, can this wait? We're at dinner with the Hendersons. I have cancer, Marcus. I need $3,500 for surgery. There was a pause, then muffled words to someone else. It's my mom. She needs money, followed by Kayla's voice, not quite muffled enough. Doesn't she have that bakery money? I sold the bakery 2 years ago to cover your down payment and Kayla's business school tuition, I said quietly. There isn't much left. Look, Marcus said, voice suddenly smooth, rehearsed. I've got a lot tied up right now. The house, the boat slip, some investments that are mid-vesting. I really can't liquidate anything without tanking my whole portfolio. Have you looked into a payment plan? Hospitals do that. I looked down at my hospital gown folder on the kitchen table. At the top of the stack, a printout of the surgery date. 3 weeks away. Sure, I said. A payment plan. I hung up. My hands were steady. That, more than anything, should have told me something had already changed in me. Reagan called 40 minutes later. I hadn't even told her yet. Marcus must have texted his sister to give her a heads up, which really meant make sure someone else deals with this. Mom. Her voice cracked on the single word. I'm coming over. I'm bringing the $340 I have, and I'm calling my boss about picking up more shifts. Reagan, no. I'm selling Dad's watch, she said. The one Robert left her. The one thing of value she owned. It'll cover most of it. I sat down on my kitchen floor and cried for the first time since the diagnosis. Not from fear of the cancer. From finally seeing, in perfect clarity, exactly who my children were. Reagan sold Robert's watch for $2,100 2 days later. She dropped it off in cash, in an envelope, without ceremony, because she said making a big deal of it would just make you feel worse. She picked up 2 extra shifts driving. She brought Eli to sit with me during chemo consults because she couldn't afford a sitter, and my 6-year-old grandson held my hand in the waiting room like it was the most natural thing in the world. I told myself Marcus was just busy, stressed, that people show love differently. Then I found his LinkedIn post. Scrolling one sleepless night, I found it. Marcus, 3 days after telling me he couldn't liquidate anything, posting a photo of a 34-foot boat. Caption, blessed. Just closed on her. Sometimes hard work really does pay off. $31,000. Cash. According to the comments where he bragged to a coworker about avoiding a loan entirely. I sat with that information for 2 days before I called him, keeping my voice light. Saw your new boat, honey. Congratulations. Oh, thanks, Mom. Been wanting one forever. You know how it is. How's the portfolio doing? You mentioned things were tight. A beat too long. Yeah, it's complicated, Mom. That money's actually separate. It's from a bonus structure tied to Q3 targets. Completely different bucket than my liquid assets. Financial stuff, you wouldn't really. It's hard to explain. Of course, I said. I wouldn't understand. I understood perfectly. 2 weeks after my surgery, which Reagan's watch money and a hospital payment plan for the remainder had covered, I was recovering at home. Marcus and Kayla came to visit. Mostly, I suspected, out of obligation and a nagging fear of how it would look if they didn't. I was on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, pretending to nap. I do that well. 30 years of standing behind a bakery counter teaches you how to look invisible while hearing everything. Kayla's voice, low, from the kitchen. God, this house smells like a hospital. She'll bounce back, Marcus said. She always does. Tough old bird. Did you tell her about the lake house yet? No, and don't. She'll ask for money again. I swear, ever since Dad died she thinks we're some kind of ATM. Reagan's the one who sold Dad's watch. Let her be the martyr. I've got a life to build. I kept my eyes closed. My chest didn't even rise faster. But something in me went very, very cold and very, very clear. A week later, healed enough to sit upright with purpose, I asked Marcus to lunch. I brought up the lake house casually. His face did something complicated. Surprise, then a fast recovery into performance. Oh, that. Yeah, we're renting a place near Geneva Lake for the summer. It's actually a really smart tax move. Kayla's accountant set up an LLC for a short-term rental arbitrage thing. We're not even paying full price. It's basically break even once you factor the depreciation schedule. That sounds complicated, I said, sipping my tea. It is. Finance is just, it's a different language, Mom. I smiled and let him believe I'd swallowed it whole. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I asked Reagan's boyfriend, a genuinely kind guy named Tomas who worked in county records, if property purchases were public information. They were. Marcus hadn't rented a lake house. He'd bought one. $187,000, closed 6 weeks earlier. The same month I asked him for $3,500, and he told me he couldn't liquidate a dime. I sat at my kitchen table with the printout and Robert's photo watching me from the mantel, and I understood something I should have understood years ago. My son wasn't struggling. My son had simply decided, somewhere along the way, that I wasn't worth spending money on. I made a decision that night that surprised even me. I would not confront him with anger. Anger warns people. Anger makes them careful. Confusion, though, confusion makes people comfortable. Comfortable people talk. So I became, deliberately, a slightly foggier version of myself. I started using a cane I didn't strictly need yet. Just to be safe, doctor's orders. I let my voice go softer, slower, with little trailing pauses, as if chemo brain had blurred the edges of my sharpness. I asked Marcus to repeat things. I misplaced my reading glasses on purpose, twice, in front of Kayla, and thanked her with wide, grateful eyes when she found them for me. Let them think the bakery woman with the steel spine finally went soft, I thought. People don't guard hen houses from hens they've already decided are harmless. Internally, I was doing the opposite of softening. I was documenting everything. Dates, screenshots of the boat post, the property record printout, the overheard conversation I now wrote down verbatim while it was fresh, in a spiral notebook I kept in my nightstand under Robert's old Bible. I told Reagan none of it. Not yet. She had enough weight on her shoulders, and I needed her to act naturally, because Marcus watched her more closely than he watched me. She was, after all, the martyr he needed to keep underestimating too. I planned my 62nd birthday dinner for 6 weeks later. I told Marcus, in my new soft, trailing voice, that I wanted one nice family dinner, maybe my last big one, who knows with this cancer business, milking the frailty shamelessly. Guilt, I'd learned, was the best invitation I could send. I asked Reagan to help me set the table since my hands get so shaky now. While we worked in the kitchen, I placed my phone, recording, propped inside a ceramic bread box on the counter. The same bread box that used to hold day-old rolls at Sweet Fern, the one physical relic of my old life I still kept. It faced the dining table through the pass-through window. I also mailed myself a copy of the property deed and the LinkedIn boat post screenshot, sealed, dated by postmark, to a P.O. box, the old-fashioned poor man's copyright trick Robert taught me from his army paperwork days, so no one could later claim I'd fabricated timelines. The morning of the dinner, I texted Marcus. Might need to talk finances again after dinner, honey. Getting worried about bills with everything going on. Don't want to be a burden, but I don't know what else to do. His reply came fast, almost eager. Don't stress, Mom. We'll figure something out. Love you. I read it twice and felt, for the first time in months, something close to calm certainty. That evening, as the guests arrived, my phone sat silent and recording in the bread box, 3 feet from where my son would soon perform his cruelty in full, unknowing color. The dinner was small. Marcus and Kayla, Reagan and Eli, my sister Pat and her husband, and my old friend Louise from the bakery days. 12 people, one long table, candles I'd bought because I wanted this to feel, in some strange way, ceremonial. Dinner went fine until the cake. Kayla, 3 glasses of wine deep, laughed too loud at something and said, to the whole table, Diane, you really should think about assisted living soon. I mean, no offense, but with the cane and the memory stuff, Marcus and I were literally just discussing it. We were, Marcus said, chuckling, the wine making him careless. There's a nice place, Willowbrook, only $4,500 a month. We could look into financing for you if it comes to that. Better use of resources than, he gestured vaguely at me. Medical bills for something that's probably terminal anyway, statistically. The table went quiet. Reagan's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. I set down my own fork very gently. Marcus, I said, my voice steady now, no trailing fog left in it at all. How's the lake house? His smile faltered by 1 degree. What lake house? The one near Geneva? $187,000. Closed the same month you told me you couldn't spare $3,500 for my surgery. I let that sit in the air like smoke. The one Kayla told you not to mention to me, in this very living room, while I was resting on that couch right there. Kayla's wine glass paused at her lips. And the boat, I continued, calm as a Sunday morning. $31,000 cash. Posted publicly, 3 days after you told me your portfolio was mid-vesting. I don't know what that means, Marcus. I never went to business school. But I know what a lie looks like, because I ran a business for 32 years and I learned to spot the customers who wrote bad checks. Mom, you're confused. You don't understand the finances. I understand $187,000 is a lot more than $3,500, I said. I understand a mother almost didn't have surgery money while her son bought a boat. I understand your wife called this house quaint while suggesting I be shipped off to a facility neither of you would ever visit. I reached into the bread box, took out my phone, and set it on the table. Face up, playing. Let her be the martyr. I've got a life to build. Marcus's own voice, tinny and unmistakable, filled the silence of the dining room. Nobody breathed for 3 full seconds. That's taken out of context, Marcus stammered. There's no context that makes that sentence kind, I said quietly. I picked up the printed property deed I'd had waiting, folded, under my napkin all evening, and I tore it slowly, deliberately, in half. Not out of anger, but because I wanted him to watch me destroy the paper version of the lie the way he tried to destroy my dignity. I've already given a copy to my attorney, I said, along with the recording and the screenshots and a revised will. You're no longer named in it, Marcus. Neither is Kayla. Reagan and Eli inherit everything, including whatever's left of the bakery money you thought I didn't have anymore. Kayla stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. This is insane. This is elder abuse, recording people without consent. It's a one-party consent state, I said. I checked. Thoroughly. While you both thought I was too confused to check anything. Reagan was crying quietly, not from grief, but from something that looked almost like relief. The truth, finally, arriving in the open air where it could stop rotting in the dark. Marcus stood too, face red, mouth opening and closing without producing anything useful. There was nothing useful left to say. "I think it's time you both left," I said, and my voice never rose above the volume I used to order coffee. Word travels fast in a town like Millbrook. Within a week, Kayla's real estate side business, the one funded partly by the tax strategy Lake House, lost 3 clients who'd heard the recording secondhand at Louise's insistence, played to anyone who'd sat across from Marcus's arrogance even once. Within a month, Marcus's employer, a company that prided itself publicly on family values branding, quietly passed him over for the VP promotion he'd been chasing for 2 years, after an anonymous complaint referencing concerning conduct toward an elderly, ill parent reached HR. I never confirmed who sent it. I never denied it either. The boat sold at a loss 3 months later, $24,000, a $7,000 hit, to cover legal fees from a lawsuit Kayla's father filed against their LLC over a soured arbitrage investment that had, in fact, been exactly as complicated and exactly as fraudulent as it sounded. Marcus and Kayla separated by winter. Not because of me. Because people who build a marriage on cruelty toward the people who raised them tend to eventually turn that cruelty inward on each other. Through it all, one thing mattered more to me than any of Marcus's consequences: making sure Reagan never felt like collateral damage in someone else's reckoning. I paid off her car loan, $6,200, quietly, no ceremony, the same way she'd handed me that envelope of watch money. I put $15,000 in a college account for Eli. I told her the bakery had been worth more than I'd let on, and that some of it had simply been waiting for the right hands. "You didn't have to do all this," she said, crying at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd once cried on the floor beneath it. "I know," I said. "That's exactly why I did." 8 months later, on a night when Millbrook was getting the first real ice storm of the season, my doorbell rang at 9:40 p.m. Marcus stood on my porch, no coat, hair plastered flat with sleet, looking 10 years older than the man who'd bought a boat in cash. The lake house was gone. Foreclosed, I later learned. After the divorce split what little equity remained. He was staying, he said, at a Motel 6, off Route 9. "Mom," he said, voice cracking, "I know I don't deserve. I just need somewhere to stay. Just for a little while. Just until I figure things out." I stood in the doorway, warm light behind me, the smell of Reagan's pot roast drifting from the kitchen where Eli's laughter carried faintly. "You didn't have $3,500 for my surgery," I said, "but you had $31,000 for a boat and $187,000 for a lake house." "I'm not confused about that anymore, Marcus." "I was never confused. I let you believe I was." His face crumpled. "Mom, please. I hope you find somewhere warm tonight," I said. "It won't be here." I closed the door, gently, the way I'd learned to do everything now, without slamming, without needing to. Later, Robert's old chair creaked as I sat down beside Louise, who'd come by for tea. She squeezed my hand. "Any regrets?" she asked. "Only one," I said. "That it took cancer to show me who actually loved me for free. Here's what I learned, the hard way, at 61 years old with a scar across my stomach and a lighter heart than I've had in years. Money doesn't reveal character. Scarcity does. Give people a reason to choose between their comfort and your need, and you'll finally see, with perfect clarity, exactly who they really are. My daughter had $340 and gave me everything. My son had $200,000 and gave me a lie in expensive font. Choose your family by who shows up, not by who talks the loudest about loving you. If someone in your life has ever made you feel like a burden for simply needing help, I want to hear that story in the comments below. And if this one hit you right in the chest the way I think it did, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.